And God said, "Let there be
The
light."
Lord says, "Let my people go."
I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me.
This is the Talkin' Bible podcast.
Hello, folks. Welcome to today's episode. Back again for another episode of Talkin' Bible with me, Rohan Bell, and Adrian Gallagher back again. Hello, Adrian.
Good morning, sir.
Good. Oh, my notes have moved. So you're going to have to tell us what we're talking about. Healing on the Sabbath. Is that right?
Jesus heals on the Sabbath.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just my OneNote file just disappeared back to the episodes I was having with Amanda yesterday. I don't know how that happened. It reset itself. Jesus heals on the Sabbath. That is it. Which Jesus did a lot of, didn't he?
Yes.
Quite a bit. Not just this story, but numbers of different stories where he provided kinds of healing on the Sabbath.
He does. And, well, yeah, that was one of his roles of proving who he was.
Yes.
In Acts, it said something about Jesus proved his word by his testing miracles or
Yep,
something like
by
that.
his miracles. Yep, that's right.
And so no one could say, nah, this bloke ain't who he professes to be.
Because miracles was part of what they were expecting the Messiah to do based on their understanding of the Old Testament. But healing on the Sabbath, mind you, that's a whole nother kettle of fish that Jesus, well, he poked the bear on that one, didn't he? Yeah.
Well, it already got in trouble because the disciples had taken a bit of grain walking through the fields, which was perfectly valid. It wasn't against any law and anything like that.
But it was against what we talked about yesterday, their oral tradition, their fence
Yes.
around the fence.
Fence,
We won't pick grain because if technically that's like harvesting and we shouldn't be harvesting on the Sabbath. So they build a fence around a fence and then judge them for being inside that fence.
Yeah. It reminds me of a religious story back from my youth days. In my youth days, raising as Catholic, we were taught that it's a mortal sin to do unnecessary servile work on Sundays.
Okay. Yep.
Now, we had a friend of mine, his father had to build a family house, literally from scratch. He would make cement in a cement mixer, put in a machine and make a brick out of it when that hard. And
Literally owner builder.
Yeah, then use that brick to make the walls. And he had to do it on Sunday because he was a shift worker, working 6 days a week or whatever. But one of the questions we said, I wonder if that's a mortal sin. And that's religion.
That's where the fence has gone around the point. And Jesus is trying to unpack the fence, isn't he? Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Because the it's either, there's just a little thing in there of interest because they talk about Matthew says departing from there he went to the synagogue, and Mark says he entered again into a synagogue, but Luke says on another Sabbath.
On another Sabbath.
Yeah, so there's just that little and 62 of the 63 Bibles translated as another. And so whether they actually occurred in the same day or not doesn't really matter.
That's probably not, which day it happened, which Sabbath it happened is probably not as important as the fact that it did happen and what Jesus was trying to teach them with this healing, wasn't he?
That's right.
So he was trying to undo, if I'm right, he was trying to undo that belief. That, although at the time there was some debate even among the rabbis about because of this oral tradition about what classed as work. And everyone said, well, it works out, but there was a bit of a debate about whether mercy was out. What is an act of mercy? Where does the fence go? How close can we go without tipping over? And that was it. Is an act of mercy still work? And that's what Jesus was trying to correct, I think, and go, look, you know, if a donkey falls down in a hole, you're not just going to say, oh, sorry, it's the Sabbath, too bad.
And actually, Jesus says, if your donkey or your son falls in the hole, you leave him there.
That's right.
Sorry, son.
Sorry, son.
Got to stay there.
Just stay there till tomorrow. When sundown, I'll be back in sundown. Yeah, exactly. And that's the point. Jesus was trying to show them the hypocrisy of their thinking.
Yeah. But the thing is, if you've got laws, you have to have them fairly well defined so that you know if someone's broken one, don't you?
Yeah, we think case law in
case law.
Yes, case law, yeah.
Like the speed limit is 50k. If
Yes.
you go over that,
you've broken the law.
You've broken the law. But because you can't be sure exactly what 50 is, they do give you a bit of leeway sometimes, and if you're nice and stuff.
Yeah, they put a bit of a barrier around it, but you're right, that's a good example of it. And oftentimes people approach the Old Testament law that way, whereas to see them as a list of case laws, whereas the way that they were supposed to be read was they were example laws that showed something of the heart of God that then by the Spirit of God you would be able to apply into every situation of your life. Like, what do we do when there's a person with a shriveled hand? Yeah. What do we do? That person's got a shriveled hand, they've had it for a long time. Do we say you have to come back tomorrow? Is that what the law requires? Or is there a greater law at work here, which is show kindness and mercy. And if it's in your power to do good, do it. And I think that's what Jesus was trying to show them, how their religion had crippled their ability to show mercy.
Because we were talking about this part of this last year when we was going through Jesus' final days. Because theoretically, Jesus could have got there the day before.
He could have.
Or the day after.
Yep.
But Jesus had to push the Jews because the Jews had to kill him eventually.
Yep. So he's poking the bear.
Yeah, and I believe that this was part of he's pushing them. And obviously the people would have been happy that he'd healed the guy.
Definitely they were. They were very excited.
I would
about
have
it.
been very happy.
Yeah, he was very happy.
It's just
But these religious people, not only were they not happy, I think a couple of the versions say at the end, after this, they were so annoyed with Jesus, so angry with Jesus, that they went out and found the followers of Herod and tried to kill him, to figure out, try and plot how they could kill him.
yeah,
That's messed up.
that is totally messed up. But it shows how sin can affect us totally negatively if we get, I guess, too far into it.
Yeah. If we start to just become so convinced that we're right and aren't prepared to keep reflecting back on asking God, am I right in this, Lord? Where might I be missed? Where might I have a blind spot? In my effort to try to do the right thing, am I actually not representing you well? And we take our lead from Jesus. Jesus is healing on the Sabbath, reaching out to hurting people. He heals women, with an issue of blood on the Sabbath who's unclean. He heals this man on the Sabbath. Jesus is hanging out with tax collectors and sinners and notorious sinners like we talked about in yesterday's episode. Jesus is doing all these things. So our effort to stay clean must never get in the way of us doing that, or we miss out on what the heart of the gospel's about.
I lost a thought in there somewhere. I've lost it.
Lost it? It'll come back to you.
It'll come back.
Sorry about that. I took a thought and went a different way.
No,
Well, I wonder if Jesus is trying to challenge injustice here. He's trying to show them that their efforts to be just are actually unjust. Yeah.
I have years ago we did some sort of test of some sort. I come out deciding I had a passion for justice. But the other side of that is, sort of around about that time I stopped watching football because people were cheating. I just couldn't handle it.
Ah, yes. Yeah, well, that's right. That'll come into it as well. Yep. Something about us we don't like. If we're passionate about justice, we won't handle unfairness.
No. Or what we think is unfair.
What we think is unfair, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, that's right. Sometimes, exactly. We do well to stick to what Jesus says is unfair.
What I forgot about was in our Christian beliefs, we have to hold a belief, but we can't hold it to the point of saying, I'm not willing to change if someone can demonstrate that's wrong.
Yeah.
There's some people are just totally locked in. This is right. This is wrong.
No teachability. No self-reflection.
Nothing at all. Was okay.
Yeah.
I believe this is right.
Yes.
If you can prove to me as yours right, I'll believe you.
Yeah, that's right. Be open to have our view challenged is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. I often say this. So in Islam, one of the tenets of Islam is that a Muslim is dissuaded from testing their belief. You don't test what anybody says. You don't test the Quran. You don't test anything, which I think is what part of the danger is, because it doesn't allow for honest assessment of the heart. As a Christian pastor, I'm very much of the opinion I want people to test me. I want people to test what I say. I'm not going to get everything right, but I love the fact that in the gospel, as a Christian, there is room for me to question things. In fact, it's encouraged.
Yep.
That probably comes from the Jewish culture. I mean, Jews are renowned for, testing. What's the famous saying? Got two Jews, you got three opinions.
Yes.
Because they're renowned for that. But that's actually part of the robustness of how the Jewish culture worked. And the Christian church is at its best when we create space and say, hey, I want you to question all options. You don't just hold on to something dogmatically lest you end up like a Pharisee. And the other thing too is that it's okay to have your stuff questioned. You might come out, if you come out you're finding you were right in the first place, you'll actually come out with more strength.
That's
you're
right. Yeah.
Because now you've actually honestly faced up to the potential arguments against it. But we don't like that. We want to bury our head in the sand and put our fingers in our ears and say, no, don't tell me anything I don't want to hear, because it might upset my entire worldview. But if it's the wrong worldview, don't you want to be upset? Don't you want to know if you're believing a lie?
I find it very difficult to listen to or read an opinion that I know I disagree with.
Right.
And I think that's sort of natural. You don't want to find out that you're wrong.
No. Well, the entire internet, social media industry, YouTube, Facebook, the whole lot is built on that very premise that you just said. That's what the algorithm does. It says, I know that you don't want to hear what you don't want to hear, so I'll just give you more of what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if you look at something, it gives you more of that. And
yeah. You have to be prepared to, as the first point of call in life is to go, I need to be challenged. I need to grow. I was watching a guy on YouTube who's a public speaking guy, Australian guy who's a public speaking. He's not a Christian, but he teaches on public speaking and so on. And he said something to this effect this week of the key to success is, ironically, as not a Christian, he said the key to becoming successful is to realize you're a failure. And what his point was, unless you can come to that point of recognizing you don't have it, you'll never grow.
Okay.
You'll never change. So it fits with the prodigal son, like we were saying yesterday. But it's the same about any aspect of life. If I want to learn to be more of a better public speaker, I've got to own up to the fact that there's some areas in my life where I'm not a good public speaker, so that I can actually acknowledge them and grow. Isn't that the principle of life? If we don't want to be challenged, we won't grow.
No. And yesterday 2 days ago at Connect Group, we had a guest speaker.
Had a guest speaker. You did indeed. I was in this room recording with Shannon, and you guys were up the front of the building. Yep.
And the way he did it is totally different to how I do it.
Okay.
And I thought, I liked what he did. I got to learn from that.
Yeah, good. Yeah, so a different method. That's great.
Yeah.
So that shows your teachability. And I don't know how we got on to teachability. We're talking about breaking the rules, but Jesus definitely wanted to show them, don't get stuck in your way. I suppose that's where we got to. Don't get so stuck in your way that you miss out on what really matters.
And don't be so bound up that you're not willing to do something good on a particular day.
Yes.
Because of, what's the word? Because you think it shouldn't be done today, type thing.
That's right. Good point. Yep. Be whatever the day is. I wrote in my notes, and one of my applications, I wrote down, that it's we part of this problem is that we need to learn to prioritize compassion. If there is someone in my world who needs something, I can it might not be the Sabbath, whatever, but if I'm busy or I'm about my business, I've got to make sure that I can convince myself I'm doing the Lord's work. But if there's someone in front of me or someone I know who's in crisis right now, Jesus would say, well, actually, that's the most important person right now. You can give yourself a million excuses for why you're doing the Lord's work, or it's the Sabbath, or, but be willing to be inconvenienced to show compassion. And that's what these guys didn't do. I think they lost the plot.
I think your congregation would appreciate it more if you come up and said, I haven't got a sermon this week, I was looking after people.
No, that's right. I think, I don't know if they would, but they probably should. They probably should. We spend a lot of time, caring for people. And look, the fact is, as a pastor of, the 3 locations we have, I can't be what everyone needs me to be there, but we're working on that at the moment. It's having a really significant improvement in our pastoral care, so that we want the heart of a shepherd is that everyone will get adequate care and feel cared for. We need to do that, definitely. And just in our hearts, we've got to go, people are what it's about. Jesus would say, I'm here for people. I'm here to set captives free. Yeah, amen. Anything else there?
I don't think so.
All right. We'll talk to everyone on tomorrow's episode. Thanks for being with us today.